so we're going to go ahead and factor using guess and check. Two numbers multiplied together that gives you 2D and 1D. Two numbers multiplied together that gives you negative 14. Okay, one of them has to be negative. It's going to be 7 and 2. We're going to cross multiply to verify. Okay, so negative 2D plus 14D is 12D. So noted that's the correct answer. So I'm going to go ahead and write it. Remember, when you write it going straight across. Okay, so you're going to notice that none of these are my answers. Okay, so I don't have anything that resembles it except the D plus 7. Okay, here and here. So what you notice though is that both of these have a 2, so I can factor out a 2 using the GCF. So if I factor out a 2, I'm left with 2 divided by 2 is D. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay. So notice the 2 and the D minus 1. So the answer has to be A. So there's different ways I could have written this as well. There's actually 3 ways to write this problem. So we were just looking for the one that had the 2 in the front. Okay, what is the solution set? So notice how my solutions is. So I know that I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is my constant. Okay. So remember, I'm going to do my discriminant over here. So b is 3, a is 2, c is negative 4. So 3 squared is 9. Bring down your negative. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times negative 4, negative 16. Sorry, negative 32. Negative and negative make a positive. So 9 plus 32 would be 41. So we're going to write this over back here. Okay, so we have b, which is 3, and a, which is 2. So I'm going to have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 41 over 4. Okay, so how many times does the graph intersect the x-axis? In order to do this, we're going to use our discriminant and ton of work. Okay, so a is 2, b is 4, c is 2. So b is 4, a is 2, c is 2. So 4 squared is 16, 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 minus 16 is 0. So how many times? 1 time. Okay, so to write an equation, I need to find the slope first. Remember that the y is on top, x is on the bottom. So here's my y. So I'm going to have negative 7. Remember, change the sign of the second number, plus 1, and 9 minus 6. So that's negative 6 over 3, which is negative 2. Once you have that, you're going to write your equation in point slope form. Y blank equals m parentheses x blank. Your slope goes in the m. Remember, pick one of the points. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to pick the second point just because they're smaller numbers. The x's go with the x's and the y's go with the y's. But when you write them in opposite. So since x is negative 1, becomes 1. Since y is negative 6, becomes negative. So then you're going to distribute. So negative 2x, negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Bring down the y plus 1. Then we're going to move the negative 1 to the other side. So we get y equals negative 2x plus 11. Okay, so which of the represents our graph? So this is a quadratic. Notice that my leading coefficient is negative, so it's sad. So I know that it's going to be going down. So they're all going down. Okay. So it can't be a line, so it's going to be one of these. My y-intercept is 0, -3. 0, -3. Okay, so notice that there's only one parabola with a y-intercept of 0, -3. So it has to be C. If I didn't see that there was two of them, then I would have to go to the next step and find the x-coordinate of the vertex. So opposite of B over 2 times A, where A is the leading coefficient of x squared and B is the coefficient of x. So I would have ended up with -1. Okay, so write an inequality. So notice that it's shaded low. So that means it's going to be less than. Since it's a dash, there's no line. Okay, so notice all the equations are the same. The only thing that's different is the inequality. So which one has less than? Would be A. Okay, which of the following function has a range? Remember Dr. XY? So my range are the Y values. So it's asking which of the following has the Y values to be -8. So let's look for -8 for the Y values. So we're only looking at the Y values. So we have a -8 there, and we also have one here. So I know that it can't be B or C. -26, -17. Okay, so this one doesn't have -17, so it has to be A. Okay, so Sal can clean the garage in 4 hours. Sarah can do the same job in 1 hour. If they work together, how long would it take them to clean the garage? So this is a work problem. So remember, we have Sal plus Sarah equals their work together. So Sal can clean the garage in 1 out of 4 times the time together. Sarah can do the same job in 1 hour, so 1 out of 1. And how many garages do they want to clean? 1. So what we're going to do is multiply everything by 4 and 1. So we're going to have the 4's cancel, 1x. Okay, 1's 4x. And then 1 times 4 times 1 is 4. So we're going to combine like terms. And then we're going to divide by 5. So x is 4/5. Okay. So we're going to do power to power. We have 2 squared times b to the 8 times c to the 4th. And then I'm going to bring the second one down. 2 squared is 4. Put my numbers together, my b's together, and my c's together. So 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, I'm going to add the exponents. So b to the 8th times b to the 4th is b to the 12th. And I'm going to go ahead and add the exponent. So 4 plus 5 is 9. All right. Okay, so the graph represents the parabola, so is A positive or negative? Since it's going down, it's going to be a sad face, so A is negative. Because the graph is going down. Okay. Is C positive or negative? Remember that C is your y-intercept. Your y-intercept is 0C. So notice that your y-intercept is positive 2. So it's going to be positive because the y-intercept is positive. And then A times C, so a negative times a positive would be a negative. Okay, so again, I have a power to a power. So I'm going to distribute. So I'm going to have p to the 9 q to the 27, 8 to the third, and p to the 21. So the only things that I have to worry are my p's, which I'm going to subtract. Notice that there's more p's on the bottom, so that is where they're going to remain. So 21 minus 9, it's 12. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put all my numbers together. And all underneath one fraction. So I'm going to cancel. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 2 two times. I'm going to have negative 1 d to the 10. Notice that I'm adding the exponent over 2 times 5, which is 10 d to the 8. Since there's more d on top, they're going to remain on top. So I'm going to solve by completing the square. So step 1 is I'm going to add a blank. I'm going to get the coefficient of x divided by 2 becomes 4, and then I'm going to square it, which is 16. And that is what I'm going to add to both sides. Once I add to both sides, I'm going to go ahead and factor. Two numbers multiplied together, that gives you x squared. And then I need two numbers multiplied together, that gives you 16. I'm going to have x plus 4, x plus 4, or I can write it as x plus 4 squared. And on the right, I'm going to have negative 10 plus 16, or 6. So I'm going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So I get x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 6. Remember, when you take the square root of both sides, you get a plus or minus. So then we're going to move the 4 to the other side, so it becomes a negative 4. Okay, so here are the 4 steps to the quadratic formula. So we want to know which are the correct steps. So if I look at the steps, I'm looking to see which one's first. So first is 1. Notice that you're dividing by 8. And then I'm going to use 4 because now I'm completing the square. Okay, so out of these two, which one's first? It would be 2 because I factored, and then finally I took the square root.